Hello and welcome to Happy Horror Time. My name is Tim Murdoch.
And my name is Matt Emmert. Now, as someone whose life has been changed by the Halloween franchise, I'm so ecstatic about today's special guest. He played Michael Myers in all three of the latest Halloween films, 2018, Kills, and Ends, alongside OG Final Girl Jamie Lee Curtis. And that means he has portrayed this character more times than anyone else in the series. He's an incredible actor and stuntman, and I can honestly say he brought so many additional layers to this beloved horror villain. Please welcome to the podcast, James Jude Courtney.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, it's great to have you here. And so I read that you were raised in South Carolina and grew up as the oldest of seven boys. What was that like? And how did you first become interested in acting as a kid?
Oh, dude, it was a test fest. I mean, it was at a certain point, my mom stopped putting, patching walls and just started hanging up pictures. I mean, and I'm one of the smaller guys, so my brothers are big kids. I'm the oldest, but the biggest was like 6'8", 285. We're all athletes. And so, rainy days were really rough on the furniture, But yeah, I know in fourth grade, I had epiphanies in fourth grade and I actually lived in Cleveland, Ohio then, Bedford, Ohio. And we moved down here in the middle of 10th grade. And so it kind of sucked because the football team that I played on at Holy Name in Cleveland ended up winning the state championship in 1975, which was my senior year. So I missed out on some fun, but moving down here was it was an essential and really powerful move for my entire family. But in fourth grade, I had epiphanies, and one of them was I was going to make movies for a living. And so, it wasn't a dream, it was a fact, and so everything I did from that point forward was geared towards making movies. My dad, had an old 1950s, I should have brought it down, 1950s Kodak 8mm tri-lens camera. And he shot every football game, every basketball game, Easter, Christmas, And so I would pick up I picked up the camera in fifth grade and I started making every project I possibly could with film. And dude, it's not like this. It's like buying film stock. It's like, paying for processing. And then when you made an edit on this little moviola, if you didn't like the edit, too bad, man, you're already in it. So yeah. So when we moved down here, had a little, I didn't much care for the coaching staff. I was supposed to go to a high school specifically because there was a coach there named Mooney Player. He left. The other coaches and I just didn't see it eye to eye. So, but it was a good thing because I picked up a bass guitar and, started playing in a band and I needed that artistic sort of influence. I joined the drama club. And in fact, I just went to my 50th year high school reunion last night, and it's crazy, man. There's a lot of old people there, dude.
Wait. Do people come up to you at your high school reunion and be like, "Oh my God, Michael Myers, Halloween," like anything like that, or is it not like? Do you not discuss that kind of stuff with like old high school people?
Oh, I mean, mostly what it was is, "Oh my God, my grandson's going to be so stoked. Can I take a picture with you?" And it's super sweet. It's super sweet. And, I mean, I was lucky to have a really wonderful high school experience at Lower Richland in South Carolina. I mean, and then I went on to the University of South Carolina, and I actually stayed an extra year and a half just sucking up everything I could, anything that had anything to do with making films, psychology, anthropology, and of course, everything film and media arts and sound design and all those kinds of things. So, I mean, back in the day, the only real film schools were NYU if you wanted to do documentaries, and UCLA and Southern Cal if you wanted to make feature films. Other than that, there were no film schools. And now you have really wonderful film schools all over the country. But, for me, it was South Carolina. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, and my brothers are all, we're still awesome friends. Two of them have passed, but we didn't like them anyhow,
Oh no.
No, but we're really, really close, my brothers and I, and so there's a certain, in fact, a really, really dear friend of mine who passed away not too long ago, Maury Rapkin. He was one of the first licensed psychologists in the state of California. He did LSD in the 1950s with Aldous Huxley and Cary Grant, and you know what I mean. And Maury was just one of my dearest friends, and he He asked me one day what my brothers did for a living, and only one of us have a traditional job. Everybody else is entrepreneurial. And he said, "Well, that tells me you grew up in a lot of love," and we did. So I feel very blessed.
That's cool.
I'm from Ohio as well. Do you miss Ohio? Were you a big Buckeye?
When I was a kid, but moving down to South Carolina, that changed really quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And honestly, man, so when we left Ohio a couple of years before that, the Cuyahoga River caught on fire and burned for 3 days. So we left a town that was a mess. Just a mess. And we came down here, and honestly, we were like any other immigrant family. We were immigrants we emigrated from Ohio to South Carolina. And like immigrants, we found success here. My brother's a very powerful politician. My other brothers have very strong businesses, and there's a great community of friends. And so, I'm a firm believer in sort of divine guidance, universal guidance, and I think it was a really great thing that my family came down here.
Awesome. And growing up, were horror fans on your radar? Like, did any make a big impact on you?
Well, so my dad was a big 6'5", 250-pound, combat veteran, race car driver. On Friday nights, there was a guy named Goulardi on a Cleveland radio television station. Every night at 11 o'clock on Fridays, he would play horror films. And so we got to stay up late, which was huge. And we would sit with my dad in front of the couch, and he'd put his big old arms around us and hold us really tight. And so we'd watch all those Universal classics from the 30s and 20s and 30s. And so, I mean, I grew up with horror. It was, and this is what I find so beautiful about the horror community is it's still that way. It's still a family experience. It's a community experience, unlike any other genre of film. So, yeah, man, I mean, it's always been in my blood.
That's so funny that you mention that because obviously you're speaking our language because we both grew up on horror. And my 10-year-old nephew, my sister and I now show him horror movies and watch them together and talk about it. So it is so I think people who aren't fans of horror movies get the wrong idea of it things, but it really is such a shared family experience. And it feels like I have this bond with my nephew because we love horror. We talk about it together. And it's just like a comforting thing. So, something also I read is that you first worked as a tour guide at Universal Studios Hollywood before being cast as Conan in a live action show where you did all the stunt work. So did you have any stunt training before being cast in the show? And what kind of stunts did they have you doing?
Well, I went out before my last year of college. Was a tour guide for the summer. Then I went back and had a job waiting for me. And when I graduated, and it was great because I could tell you stories about every single facade in the back lot. I mean, it was just, I knew every soundstage, and they kept me on over the slow season. They laid off most of the people, and I got to stay. And so there was a lot of downtime then, and so that's when we would explore the back lot. And then when I got cast in Conan, it was my acting coach, who was a former instructor at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, and he said, "Hey, I've got this audition for you to do this Conan show." And I went and watched it, and I was like, I don't know, man. I'm not here to do stunts. I'm here, I'm an athlete, but that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to be a star. I want to be a movie star within 3 years, and then I'm going to tell the studios what I'm going to make. And that's not the way it works. and so but I started martial arts in 7th grade. I had a little bit of, I had an affinity for it for sure. So the first character I played in that was Kobad Shah. I was a double swordsman fighting Conan. And then but I had a fear of heights. I'd fallen off a huge slide when I was a kid. Most things don't scare me. I do crazy stuff on motorcycles, jumps, and we always had go-karts and motorcycles. But they wanted me to take the character of Taurus Mordor, the evil villain. And in that character does a 20-foot high fall into a flaming pit. So I was afraid of heights, but my buddy Alex Daniels, who also went to the University of South Carolina, who is currently now president of the Stuntmen's Association, he was on the show, and he said, "Dude, you're not passing this up. First of all, it's more money, and secondly, it's another another tool in your toolbox. You can't, So he took me to Bob Yurkis, the circus trainer, and he taught me to fall off the trapeze, and it was like 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet. I think the highest up there, I think, was 55 feet. 55 feet, yeah. And so within 2 hours, he had me doing, full on high falls, and I loved it. So in the Conan show alone, I did over 3,000 high falls.
Oh my God, talk about conquering a fear.
Show.
Yeah, do you have other tapes or like anything on YouTube? Can we catch this show like from the past?
Yeah, I'm sure there's somewhere. I mean, there were multiple casts. I was on the A cast, but uh let's see. It's funny. I was dating a woman who I met when she was getting her master's at UCLA in dance, and she saw the tape of me playing Kobat Shaw, and she goes, "Oh my God, you would have made a great dancer." And then she looks at me and goes, "And you would have been so laid."
I mean, just guys in general in drama was very scarce. I mean, at least all my experiences.
Well, you mean straight guys?
Yeah, straight guys, of course. I mean, gay guys plenty, but straight guys, that's tough.
Yeah, that's incredible that I love that you just had the attitude of like, you're gonna conquer this, and then you're doing like millions of falls and everything like that. But it is, like you said, it's another thing in your toolbox, that you can put as like how many people can say, hey, I've done 20-foot falls into fire pits,
I mean, here's the thing: is and through the years I've noticed this. I'm really amazed that more actors don't work on their physical skills. I mean, and you don't have to be an athlete, like a competitive athlete, but this is a part of this is our tool. I mean, it's our physicality, it's our voice, it's our expression, our emotion, and so I'm really surprised that so many actors don't pay attention to that. For a time, another couple stuntmen and myself had a very private class, and we taught actors how to stunt fight. And it's a very, very particular way. In fact, when I worked on Far and Away with Tom Cruise, we brought Tom in. Ron Howard would come in with Ron, and we would with Tom, and we would teach him, step by step how to fight. And at the beginning of it, the guy couldn't throw a punch to save his life. And man, at the end of a couple months of training with him, I'd have put that guy in the ring and bet on him. The dude was so studious, and he's such a good athlete and had such an amazing attitude,
I was just telling Matt, I saw Far and Away when it came out 5 times.
Really?
From horror to Far and Away, fan.
Yeah, horror is always number one, but Far and Away was like the summer. It was a big summer movie.
Yeah, it was. It was. I worked. We shot all the American stuff was shot in Montana. So we were in Montana for 2 months, and it was just, oh my God. And Tom is just the consummate professional. Ron Howard, of course, he's still Opie. He's still this like little guy that's just running around being a silly kid. But it was such a beautiful experience, and so I feel really grateful. Well, again, doing the stunt work got me, to the ability to work with Tom Cruise, and man, we threw down, dude. I mean, we were both battered and beaten. It was a blast.
Yeah, that movie was about boxing. I mean, like, he was a boxer.
Yeah, he was a bare knuckle fighter, and so. Yeah. And actually, in that show, the tech advisor was a guy named Joe Brown. Joe Brown's was Rocky Marciano's sparring partner for 7 of his 8 title fights. Rocky Marciano had written or was interviewed and said Joe Brown was the hardest hitting man he ever stepped in the ring with. So when I showed up on set, I was on another show. So I showed up a couple days later, and the other guys had already worked with Joe. And so they were like, "Hey, man, throw down with Joe. Get in there with Joe." And so I got in with Joe. And we started throwing a little bit, and he goes, "Oh, come on, Jimmy, you can throw harder than that." And in my head, I'm going, "Oh, you motherfucker, I'm going to let you out." I didn't know that he was Rocky Marciano's sparring partner. I fucking threw in that guy, and he slipped a punch and hit me with a hard punch. I have never been hit so hard in my life. My whole body took a shit. And I bought that man a steak dinner that night.
Oh, that was nice of you.
I know, for knocking you out. Bought him a steak dinner. Oh my God. So, listeners may not know this, but Halloween 2018 was not your first time playing a homicidal maniac. You made your film debut in the 1989 slasher, The Freeway Maniac, playing a killer named Arthur. And boy, do you kill a ton of people in this movie. How did you first become involved in that project, since that was your first film?
There was an apartment building in Brentwood that they were going to pick up and move to somewhere in down in the city, Los Angeles, to create HUD housing. The law was back then that may still be, that if you're going to tear down an apartment to build a condo, that you have to move the building, which actually is less expensive for the owners. So they sent a woman over from England, the people who owned it, to watch the building to make sure vagans didn't go there, whatever. And it took her a few months to realize, well, wait a minute, they're over there, I'm here, I can rent these things out, and they'll never know. So, but she had a special affection for artists. So it was dancers, actors, comedians. Ronnie Kinney was a comedian there, and his friends were Dysandra Clay and Sam Kinison, and I met Robin Williams through him. And so there was a whole bunch of us there, and it was like this really intense. And so I got a job at the Regency Club. It was a private club for millionaires, and got two guys that were staying there and who are still extremely good friends of mine. Paul Winters, the director of Freeway Maniac, who's still making films, and Rico Ross, who's just done amazing work. He's on oh gosh, what's one of the Tyler Perry shows right now. Anyways, he's Rico's and so Rico and Paul loves martial arts. Rico loves martial arts, so we go out in the back and we box and we do stick work and Paul put that together, and we had no idea what we were doing. None of us had ever made a film before. None of us had ever worked on a film before, but we did it. And I talk to Paul often, and we still kind of laugh about how it made all these top 10 worst film lists, and now it's become something of a cult classic. I mean, I can't tell you how many VHS boxes I've signed from Freeway Maniac.
I first off, it's so funny because it's weird. Me being like a huge Halloween fan, so many weird parallels between the Freeway Maniac and Halloween. First off, it starts with a little kid committing murder, just like Halloween, and then like you're playing obviously the killer and mass killing people. Do you think this role in some weird way helped you eventually prepare for playing Michael Myers?
Oh, of course, because Paul had arranged for he and I to go to a lockdown ward at the psychiatric hospital, prison, actually, in Camarillo. So we stayed there for a weekend, and the psychiatrist and the orderlies would show us, like I interviewed paranoid schizophrenics who committed murder. I sat in the same room with these guys. I mean, they're doing the Thorazine shuffle, man. They're not going to hurt you. I mean,
Thorazine shuffle.
But yeah. So I took a lot of information from there. It was really it was pretty impressive.
And moving through your resume in horror, you also appeared in a season 2 episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer as this very scary demon, Der Kindestod, who ends up sucking like the life out of sick children. And then at the end of the episode, you even got to have like a big fight scene with Sarah Michelle Gellar. What was that whole experience like?
First of all, Sarah and Jamie are like they're two peas in a pod. They are so similar, those two women. I mean, they're both generous and funny and incredibly talented. And so the experience was wonderful. I didn't know the stunt coordinator, and he brought in a stunt double for me. And, and physically, he was a good double, came from the circus. He was very talented physically. When I tried to explain to him how this character would fight in a very cat-like way, he didn't get it. And so he was fighting like a big man, big man who fights like a big man is, kind of slow and lumbering. And that's not the way I move. And so, and especially for Der Kindestod. So, they ended up, bringing me in to do a bunch of the fight stuff. And actually the fight is shorter than it should have been because they'd wasted so much time shooting with a stunt double. I'm sure he's a great stuntman otherwise, but that leads to something too, is like, when a stuntman is doubling somebody, you find very few stuntmen will actually interview the actor, find the motivation for his character, like walk with him, run with him, move with him, find, kind of absorb his movements. And when you get stunt doubles, Corey, God, what was his last name? Anyways, Tom Cruise's stunt double moved just like him, and he had made a study of it. Even though Tom does his own stunts, sometimes I'm in makeup and I have to have somebody double me, on an action scene. And so, yeah, Yeah.
I was just about to ask you, was this the first time you had like that amount of makeup and prosthetics?
Yeah, it was. It was. When I was on Babylon 5, I did a ton of prosthetics. In fact, I've done way more Babylon 5s than are even on IMDb. I can't get them to correct it. But because I was stunt doubling on Babylon 5, I was stunt doubling a human, Jerry Doyle, who was the head of security. And so I could play an alien and get in a fight or do whatever in the same episode. And so, yeah, so, that, I think that those, I find it very meditative, being in makeup for 5 hours, it's
Really?
just, yeah, I just breathe. If you have a good artist, which I'm fortunate enough to have always had, especially Chris Nelson, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's because you're really co-creating a character with these people. I mean, you really, and the beauty, and I love collaboration, man. I come from, a big family, and I play team sports, and I really believe in the power of a group effort.
I guess I'm a little confused because if you are an actor who's also a stuntman like yourself, they still need to have a stunt double for you in terms of certain stunts. Is that because, like what you said, when you're in the makeup doing the scene, you can't suddenly shift into being like thrown through a window or something? But I guess like in the Buffy episode, like how come they needed to have a stunt double for you?
That was because the stunt coordinator didn't know me and didn't take the
Oh,
time. And I went and spoke to him. He just didn't. He just didn't want to listen. And so, I mean, I just walked away going, dude, it's your loss. I mean, I can throw it down for you, but whatever. I'm getting paid either way. I don't care. And in the Halloween films, for instance, Cody doubled me on the stair fall. So the only double I had at 2018 was the stair fall. Stair falls, I've done them. They hurt, and it's really really easy in a stair fall to break an arm or break a leg. I mean, because you can't control that very well. And I looked at it and they said, well, we think we want to use Cody to do that. I was like, dude, let him have it. He's 30 years old. He'll have fun. you know? And then for Halloween Kills, I was doubled on one thing. That was jumping off the top of the SUV. During rehearsals, I jumped off the SUV, and I nailed it. But then I went, man, in my head, I'm like, this is not worth it. Now, if I sprain an ankle, sprain a knee, rupture a disc in my back. And sure enough, man, Doug jumped off the top of the SUV and sprained his ankle. One take.
oh
He was
shit.
yeah. So, and then in Kills, Aaron Armstrong. So in Kills, they were looking for the flashback, the character. And David Gordon Green's a purist. He wanted a younger person to play the flashback. And at first I didn't get it. Now I do. So they looked at over 200 people to find somebody that moves the way I move, and they couldn't find anybody. I mean, Doug Tate is a good enough double. If you look at our size, shaved head and physical structure, but he doesn't move anything like me. And but it turns out that Aaron Armstrong, who was the stunt coordinator on Halloween Kills, it did years and years and years of kung fu, but he also did years and years of Aikido. And Aikido has really, really strongly informed the way I move as Michael Myers, as the Shape. So it's a very specific move. And if you don't know how to do it, it takes years to learn to move with that fluidity. And so they cast him at that. And then because of that, he stayed on for Halloween Ends. He didn't coordinate it, but he ended up doubling me on some of the fight stuff, like the long shots in the tunnel. Like some of those are him. Most of them are me. Nothing close up. When the refrigerator falls, that's Aaron. But it's me on the table for everything else. Because a lot of it, especially, because I'm going without the mask, I'm going with the mask, I'm, all these different things in Halloween Ends. So I was in makeup a lot.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I mean, well, then let's jump into, because moving into starting with Halloween 2018. And now I know you've told this a million times already, but can you tell our listeners just the whole story about how you ended up being cast as Michael Myers initially, like from how you first heard about the opportunity to the audition itself, etc.?
Well, I had moved from California back to South Carolina. I wanted to be close to family. I was focusing really intently on writing and producing my own stuff. And my attitude was, look, if a friend calls me and wants me to work, I'm good. Yeah, I love being in front of the camera, but I'm going to create my own content. I wanted to create my own vehicles. And so I bought a place and I gutted it out and built it out, and I just spent my time writing, and I got called from some friends, did a few commercials and that kind of stuff, and then I knew they were shooting Halloween in South Carolina, but I didn't reach out. I'm like, no, I'm not chasing anything, man. I mean, if they come to me, I'll do it, but it was an afterthought. And Ron Hutchinson, the casting director, called me, and I'd known him for like 30 years. I only knew him from films that I worked as an actor on, not a stunt person, but he knew that I was gifted as a stuntman. And we have a very, very close mutual friend, Chris Nielsen. Chris and Jennifer Nielsen are some of my dearest friends, and they're also very close to him. So Ron calls me and he goes, "Hey, Jimmy, we're shooting a Halloween." I was like, "Yeah, man, I see that. That's awesome, dude. You're gonna have a blast." He goes, "Yeah, well," so I read the script and I called Malika Akkad and I called David Gordon Green and I said, "Look, whoever plays this character, this is different than any other Halloween. Whoever plays this character has to have really deep acting chops and has to be a really good stuntman. And there's just not many of those guys around." And David said, "Well, he's got to be 6'3", 200 pounds, and he's got to be in his 60s. Who do you know?" And Ron didn't even remember me. It was Chris Nielsen and Jennifer who were like, "That's fucking Jim Courtney, man. What are you, nuts?" And so he called and he said, "Well, would you go down and get to Charleston and be put on tape?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I drove down. And they there's a room, the casting director and videotape, and they interviewed me and my experience and acting and stunts, and they mostly had me move, and it was a basic audition. I walked out to the parking lot, got in my truck, and I live in South Carolina, dog. You got in a truck, right? And so, so I get my truck. I wasn't even out of the parking lot. See, initially they thought I was still in California. They were going to fly me out. But or they were going to take me there, and then if they would want me, they would fly me to South Carolina. But I was here, so I got a call from Blumhouse in the parking lot, and they said, "Are you available these dates?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's all good." And as an actor, that's the kiss of death. If they put you on a veil, someone else is going to get it.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
thought that was good news, but I've also heard this bad news.
oh, so like meaning keep your schedule open, but it's not going to go to you.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I think my ratio is 10-1 on those, And so, then I said, yeah, whatever. So I'm driving towards the freeway, and I get a call from Blumhouse again. They said, "Can you come back? David Gordon Green wants to meet you." So I went back. I met, David and Ryan Turek and Malik, and I met everybody. And what David told me is after that, they just told casting, "This cut it off, man. We have our man."
Wow, that is so cool. I mean, it's so great. We always love talking to people about audition stories because so many different stories, some that hear right away, some it's like weeks or months before they hear, and just we love hearing that. One of the things that I always found a little confusing. So when all the press first came out for Halloween 2018, they were announcing everything. A lot of the articles were giving off the impression that Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers in the original Halloween, had like fully returned to the role, even though he ended up just having a cameo and you were playing the part. Do you know why this was being said? Was it just like for hype? Because it seems unfair to you that they were positioning it that way. And I'm not sure what your take was on that.
Oh, no.
Okay, you have a take. Tell us.
Yeah. They were playing their reindeer games, and it was Blumhouse publicity, and they and when they did, they played all that. I went, that's fine, man. It's the hype. This is just a job. I'm good. And it was when Halloween Kills came out that they had fed the newspapers and that Nick Castle was back as, and Nick wasn't even in the movie. And there was no mention of me in any of their press. And Nick was so angry that he started writing the newspapers, emailing the newspapers, New York Times, LA Times, like saying, retract it. That's Jimmy Courtney. You give him the credit for that. So yeah, it was less than honorable, shall we say.
Yeah, it was just, and it was also really confusing. It felt like they were like gaslighting the fans in a way, because it just, and I know you and Nick Castle are good friends and we've had him on the podcast. Great guy, but obviously seems very humble and is not going to take credit for something that he didn't do. So, and he even joked like when he first heard about Halloween 2018, he was like, "Okay, I can, stand to do a couple things, but you're not going to get me doing all those stunts and all the work they needed."
He said like, "I don't want to stay up that late."
Yeah, he's like, "I don't want to movie doing these late shoots, like all this stuff, So, well, okay, so let's talk about the very first time that you put on the Michael Myers mask, like the first scene you filmed. What was that like, and how did it make you feel? Because I've heard you mention in interviews that like whenever you'd put the mask on, it was like a switch would go off and you were in an altered state.
Well, that happened. We were rehearsing the day before we started the shoot. The last day of rehearsal, we were rehearsing the long walk through the neighborhood, right?
Of course.
And that was such. I mean, it was such a technically just such a difficult shot. And so we spent an entire night rehearsing it. At about 9, maybe 11 o'clock at night, Chris Nelson had just flown in from California. It was so cinematic. We're in a house, and he walks in with this leather Halliburton. It's like this leather doctor's bag, and he walks in with 2 masks in it, and we all go back to a back room. Malik and Ron, and David Gordon Green, and Danny McBride, and Chris places me in a doorway so the light is just perfect, and he pulls the mask out. And he applies it to me. I mean, it's difficult to apply. It's not just, just don't throw it on. He applies the mask to me. Literally, I swear to God, everybody in the room collectively just went, oh, like guttural tone that just came out of everybody. And it did. It felt like an 8 million amp connection. It felt like, boom, like that was it. So it's powerful, man. It's, that's why it's so funny. I don't do cameos now. I did them for a while. Something happened in my cameo. I just never rebooted it, but I probably should. When people will, hit me up for a cameo for somebody, and they go, "So, can you have the mask on?" And then you take it off, and I'm like, "Bro, I don't put the mask on."
You're like, it's not as easy as in the movie when he just takes it out of the trunk and puts it on. There's like a lot of work involved.
And I don't want to go to that place, man. I don't want to go to that place unless they're paying me.
What was your inspiration for Michael's walk and mannerisms?
Part of it was my cat Parsival. Parsival was 24 when he passed away, and in fact, he was really he traveled with me. So and he was a stray. I met him when he was 12 years old, and I know he's 12 because the neighbors said he'd been there for 12 years, and they also said you'll never touch him. Within a month, he's hanging out with me. Within 2 months, he's sleeping in my bed, sitting next to me on the couch when I'm reading. You know what I mean? We were just like, we're so soul bonded. And I watched him hunt. And the dude, I mean, so when you see a cat in the grass and they're moving really slow and they just kind of move and move, you can see that every fiber of their being is alive, right? They're on such high alert, and they can spring at a moment's notice, right? That's what I'm feeling when I'm playing the shape. When I'm walking, when I'm fighting, when I'm doing. Every fiber of my being is alive. Every muscle is twitching. My skin is twitching. And, so I carried that with Parsival carried that. And actually, so when we were, Parsival was old. He was 24. And when we were down in Savannah shooting ends, he was on his way out. He was really sick. And he was, he'd lost a lot of weight, and he was hanging on. And then one day, Sarah called me, my partner, Sarah called me, and she goes, "James, what are you shooting today?" And I was like, shooting my death scene. She goes, "Oh my God, Parsival has become this like 8-month-old kitten. He's just bouncing off the walls and parkour kittying, and he just blossomed to life on the day that I was doing the most dramatic and powerful scene that Jamie and I agree is the most powerful thing either one of us has ever done in a movie." So, and then shortly after that, he passed away.
Oh, first off, I love the name Parsival or Parsible?
Parsival, P-A-R-C. Yeah, it's a combination of Parsifal and Percival. So it's the Grail Knight, and I named him that because Percival was the purest and the most badass knight at the round table. So
that's so cool. I love that's the inspiration. And you totally, I mean, we have a cat, so it's an indoor cat, but I mean, the cat hunts things that aren't even there, and you can see the way that it like looks, and it's like, they are so dedicated to it. I mean, you cannot get their concentration is 100% on whatever they are looking to hunt. And that totally makes sense. And it's like what you just said is such proof for all of the like studio people that think these horror movie villains are just like people who put on a mask and just, do something, it takes so much more than I think a lot of people give people like you credit for to play these villains, and like the amount of thought you put into these characters is extraordinary.
Well, thank you. It definitely is an executive sort of attitude. Just put a mask on a stuntman, it'll be fine. It's just not the way it is, man. And I mean, when David told me that he looked at over 200 people to try to find someone to do the flashback, and it's funny because even people like closely allied, on the executive level for these films had that attitude, and it's just like but it's like somebody looking at someone who like races NASCAR or F1 and goes, "Oh, dude, I could do that. I could jump in a car and frickin' drive fast. I do it every day.
Just put a helmet on me. Give me a steering wheel."
Right?
I'm a terrible driver. You put that mask on me, everyone will know I'm not a good Michael Myers.
Oh, yeah, I know, Tim. Yeah. So there's this big debate online about that long sequence you were talking about in 2018 where you're walking from house to house killing people because Michael walks by a crying baby, stops to look at it, and then walks away. So people were wondering, like, okay, well, why did a killing machine like Michael Myers spare this baby, even though obviously as human beings we don't want to see a baby get killed? But in your opinion, why did Michael spare the baby in that scene?
I don't go into the psychological opinions of what Michael Myers, because for me it's an isness. The shape is an isness for me. It's a presence in me. And in real life, man, I think especially where we're in a zone, we're on a mission, we don't really stop to analyze what it is we do. We just do it. You know what I mean? You think about the choices you guys have made in your lives, right? I mean, a lot of them, you make them, you do them, and then maybe an afterthought, you go, wow, I must have been thinking this, or I must have, and part of that too is, if I don't weigh in on the psychology of the shape, then that leads every fan ample room to do their own to manifest their own opinions and ideas, and sparks debate. There's conversation, and I think that's a really important part of this franchise. That the fans are so involved. I don't want to take that away from the fans. I want them to pursue it ad nauseum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like that they talk about it. It's great.
That is a good answer. Frustrating, but that is a great answer because you're totally right. Like if you answer it today, tomorrow it'll be on IMDb and there goes all the debate, So, yeah. So I did hear you mention on a podcast that David Gordon Green is hands down the best director you've ever worked with. So what made him such an incredible director in your eyes?
First of all, the dude he checks his ego at the door. I mean, he doesn't suffer fools gladly. And if you don't come prepared, he's not going to be easy. But he creates this sandbox and gives you ample freedom to create within it. He just sets the parameters, and he's a total collaborative. We're in the middle of a scene, and Jimmy, come here. Like, shape, come here.
Shape.
Call me Shape, and then Attila, the first AD, called me El Shapo. So and so he'd say, "Come here, what do you think of this?" And we would try different things, and I mean, he was like that with everybody. Anybody on the set could walk up to him with an idea, and he would be, "Let's try it." I mean, he would take that idea and morph it into something real. He's a remarkably gifted man, and a very loyal human being, man. He was really pissed when he found out that had killed on Kills that they had done that, and at the end of the day, it's a human business, and when you're working 16 hours a day, working with people like David make it a joy, and they make it go by so fast. And he inspires everybody that he works with. I love that guy to death, man. Every time I get a chance, I stop in and see him.
That's so great to hear. And especially you can tell that it had to be that dynamic because you all made 3 films together. Obviously, if the set wasn't fun and enjoyable, he wouldn't have gotten the same people involved 3 times. They'd be like, sayonara after the first one, So you can tell that there's that camaraderie between all of you. And Of course, we have to ask you about working with Jamie Lee Curtis, aka Laurie Strode, who's my all-time favorite final girl. What was your first impression of Jamie Lee when you started working on Halloween 2018, and how much input would she give, like David Gordon Green, about playing Laurie Strode?
Well, it's like this, and the movie business really is like this. Francis Ford Coppola told me years and years ago that 80% of his job is casting. So when you're working with people as talented as Jamie, and you look at the cast that they brought in, we all come prepared. We already know what we're doing. Everybody, we already have. You've hired somebody who already knows how to build the engine. You know what I mean? You don't have to tell the engineer and the mechanic how to build it. So when I was on set. I'd already been on set for a couple of weeks, and I saw her like at a distance. She walked straight over to me, stuck out her hand, and said, "Hi, I'm Jamie." I was like, "Hey, James." She goes, "Good to meet you." And then I looked at it and went, her character is so conflicted. She has so many levels she has to deal with. I'm just going to leave her alone. When she wants to talk to me, she can talk to me. And it was another couple of weeks or another week or whatever. And no, a couple of weeks. I think she came in the first week. Actually, it's the second week. So it was a couple of weeks, and we're sitting in the makeup and hair trailer. I was at one end, she was at the other, and we were going to do the fight scene, which was the end of the 2018, which ended up not making it in the cut. We ended up reshooting, but she came over. She just marches over and she goes, "Okay, let's talk about this fight scene." And we sat down, we worked it out, and from that point forward, that's when the relationship started. And then before kills and before ends, she would call me and we would talk. And she, of course, was collaborative with David in a big way. I mean, but David does that. You sit there and we look at things and go, "Oh, how's this working? How's that feel? What can we do better? Let's audition this. Let's audition that." And Jamie was definitely but man, she's such a pro. Oh my God, it's just such a joy to work with. She's self-deprecating and funny and I don't know, man. I consider it one of the great joys of my life to have worked with her.
That's amazing. I'm thinking of the phone calls. Like, was she like, "Hey, El Shapo, it's Lori." Laurie Strode,
And what was it like working with Judy Greer and Andy Manichek?
Well, Andy was wonderful. Andy's just absolutely, it's a joy of a human being. I only worked with Judy a little bit. Most of their stuff was away from me. Judy's a super sweetheart, an incredible actor. I mean, she's just a gifted human being. The stuff we did do together was a lot of fun. But again, I kind of stayed away, and I only went where I was invited because I didn't know what conflicts were going on in these actors' minds. And a lot of the time I stayed pretty, in between, takes and things. I would just stand off to the side, especially if I had the mask on, and just be in a meditative place, just breathe. I do a lot of breath work. I'd love to have known her better. She's an amazing person, as far as I know, as far as my experience with her. She was incredible to work with. But Andy and I did so much work together. So, I love Andy to death.
That's great. Awesome. You kind of alluded to this, and we're going to ask you about this because one of the other things that big things that fans have been discussing since Halloween 2018 was that original ending. Because, okay, so the first trailer we got for Halloween, you see this scene where Laurie is outside with Karen and Allison and trying to stab you, yet that part was never in the movie. So can you tell us, like, what exactly occurred in that original ending?
Well, there's part of it I can't tell you about because David, when we shot the very, very end of it, David came up to me and goes, "Wow, that's like right at the top of my filmmaking experience. Like, it was such a powerful thing we did." And he goes, "Man, when we went in to reshoot the ending because it didn't test well, he came over and said, man, I think that ending that we shot, I'm not going to put it on the Blu-ray. I think we should just keep it for us. It was such an intimate, special moment. It was a really powerful moment." And so, well, I can tell you about it. It was me wandering through the mannequin field. Mm-hmm. And the shooting range, and there was the different things we did, and I ended up on the like defeated and sullen and just beat to bleeding and Uh, very quietly, David orchestrated this. I don't know how he did it, but um, he he said, "Okay, cut, Jimmy. Jimmy, raise your head and look around." And I looked around, and the entire cast and crew were all around me, and they were applauding. It was just so emotional, man. It was like we all had this beautiful moment together where we just all of us had contributed so much to this, and we had this beautiful, tender, sweet, spiritual moment. The fight leading up to it was a super physical, and that's where I got to see Jamie for who she was, man, who she is. She didn't pad up, she hit the ground like a champ. At one point, she ran out of ammunition so she reverses the rifle and is going to swing it like a baseball bat. I've got a knife, holding down like this. I'm supposed to stick the knife out. She's supposed to knock it out. And I went in my head, I'm going, oh God, this is not a stunt person. This is an actor. This is a broken hand. This is a broken freaking hand. 30 takes. She hit the knife every single time.
Wow.
So, and we threw down, man. We, in fact, at one point, we're struggling and wrestling, and David's like crouched down right next to us, and he's like, this looks a little too much like a sex scene. And I looked at him, I went, oh, come on, man, let me hit it once. And and Jamie grabs me by my beard and just pulls me down and goes, she's so body. I mean, it was really freeing too. And all this, in this age of people being really, overly sensitive. I mean, I definitely believe in respecting and parameters but Jamie is just a real person. And so it's too bad it didn't test well, because I think I think it was special. But to be honest with you, the fire, that whole thing they set up, I think really launched us into kills. And they didn't really have kills fully formed, before they shot that. So that went a long way towards informing us what kills was going to be about.
And do you think the footage will ever be released?
Ever? No.
David might do it. David has the right to. But well, you never know, man. I mean, it might be something special, and in future years when we have the 60th anniversary of Halloween or something like that, and someone decides to, I mean, it would be beautiful.
I think that's a great idea, because Jaws just hit 50th. So they might release when the little boy was killed. So people, hang on to that for 50 years.
And also, I'm just thinking, let's say, just putting this out there, manifesting this for David Gordon Green to think about 2028 will be the 50th anniversary of Halloween and the 10-year anniversary of Halloween 2018. So, maybe I just know from a fan's perspective, oh my God, fans were going nuts about when are we going to get that original ending? We want to see what happened. Oh, yeah. Totally respect, how important that was to him, but maybe he'll change his mind. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
I'll put a good word for you guys.
Thanks. Yeah. I wanted to ask, before we move past 2018, one of the most iconic scenes that was, and they, use this in the trailer, is when you literally break through the windows on both sides of the door, grab Lori, lift her up. You guys are struggling, and she ends up shooting off some of your fingers with a shotgun. How the heck was all of that filmed?
It was complex, man. And I'm standing on apple crates on the other side, and we had, I mean, a lot of technical stuff that went through into that, and actually part of the struggle is actually Chris Nelson's hand. We have very similar hands, and so his hands are actually nicer than mine. They're not so broken up, but and actually I can't remember which part of that. It's his hand through the window. Because I was in makeup, and the timing is so tight that he had to be on the set anyhow to run the gag. So that was a combination, mostly 99% me, but Chris is in there as well. Chris Nelson's in there as well. There's a hand model.
That totally reminds me of the parallels of the original Halloween when Tommy Lee Wallace would do some of the hand things for Nick Castle because, it had to be so technically correct, or Nick had to be, standing and doing other things. So I don't know. I always think about all those weird parallels since I'm a Halloween nerd.
What was it like seeing Halloween 2018 for the first time on the big screen?
Dude, I don't like watching myself. I don't like, I like when I work on movies, when I'm in front of a camera, I can't remember a time when I've been stressed or anxious. It's like I'm in such a zen place. I'm in such a peaceful, like just connected to the universe and everything around me. When I go to a premiere of a movie that I've done, I'm sweating bullets, man. I don't want to see myself because I'm going to look at it with a critical eye. I mean, the audience is watching a movie. I'm watching, like this, just going like, okay, oh fuck, I could have done. Oh, I should have. So I don't really enjoy that process. I do it because I have to, And I love the paparazzi. I love the interviews. I love being with my friends. I love the audience response. The audience response at the premieres was amazing. I actually saw. So the premiere was the first time I saw 18. Blumhouse gave me a private screening room for Kills and Ends. So, because I talked to Ryan Turek and Ryan, let me tell you, man, Ryan Turek over at Blumhouse is absolutely wonderful. He's a wonderful guy. And he really made a lot of things a lot easier for us, that might not have been so easy. And so Ryan arranged for me to have private screenings so that I could just get past that bullshit and enjoy the premiere,
That's awesome.
And I mean, I've only heard nice things about Ryan.
Yeah.
Because he comes from he grew up watching all these films.
Yeah, he takes the fans, he's like the fans executive, you know what I mean? Yeah, so it's like you feel like the fans are being represented with him on that. I've heard the same stuff, like really nice stuff about him. And that's cool because it sucks. It's because the premiere, should be the celebratory time. I can't even imagine you're sitting there sweating.
Dude. I mean, I told David Gordon Green was a film I did, and I was like, man, I walked in and before I even sat down in my chair, I just went into the bathroom and took the biggest shit.
Now that's funny.
Now that's a tidbit that wow, a Happy Hard Time exclusive. So moving on to Kills. Now, when exactly and how did you find out that they wanted to make not one but two more Halloween films? And were you surprised to get this news?
No, I knew going in.
Oh.
I knew going in 3. They didn't contract me for 3, which they probably should have because it would have been a lot cheaper for them. But no, we knew going in, and in fact, it was during Kills that Chris and I started to design the look for Ends. So we would sketch out ideas, and because we knew I was going to be maskless for Ends. So a lot of Kills was us preparing for Ends, and it's just and again, they knew what they were going to. They knew they were making 3. They just didn't know exactly what they were going to do. And dude, I mean, on movies, I don't know how much your experience is on movies, but David's walking around with a laptop, and he's writing new scenes, in the middle of a scene. We're going, okay, this is not working. This is not. All right, give me a second. And he'd huddle with Danny or huddle with one of the other writers, or sometimes you just look to a writer and go, this is not working. Give me something that does, and okay, what do you think? No, just give me something that works. And that's the way it is. And so you nothing is final, until it's a wrap. So
it's like real time screenwriting
pressure.
But I love it.
Yeah, but it's great. It's great. Yeah, man. I mean, that's what we live for. That's why we do what we do. It's exciting. You're always on your toes, and you're working with some of the most talented human beings on the freaking planet. It just doesn't get any better than that, man.
Yeah, so Kills is a lot different than 2018 because not only does the film include like a ton more characters, but you also kill a ton more people. It's like a full-on massacre kind of from start to finish. How did you feel about the change in tone for this film? And was Kills the most physically demanding of the 3 for you to shoot?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100% the most demanding. And I ended up, well, in all 3 movies, I ended up with 2 hematomas, 1 concussion, let's see, bruised ribs, and I didn't have stitches. I just did butterflies on the cuts. But yeah, it was. But Kills, especially all of it, really. But the mob scene was just insane, and that's where I ended up with a hematoma on my back of my left shoulder. But emotionally, they're all deep and taxing. But Kills, I had I had the most physical fun on Kills because it was just so balls to the wall. Each film for me had its own unique peaks and special moments, and for Kills, it was almost like John Wick meets The Shape. You know what I mean? It was.
Totally. Yeah. No,
Thank
that,
God Keanu wasn't available that day.
I mean, no, it totally is. It's like, and one of our favorite scenes in Kills is the attack on Marion, Marcus, Vanessa, and then Lindsay Wallace in the park. Now, this scene, it incorporates so many like gunshots and windows breaking and maneuvering around that car. Was every little part of that scene choreographed beforehand? And did you get to rehearse it a lot? How did that all work?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. You got to, man, because people get hurt. You know, people. I will tell you a little story, man. It's so when you stunt fight, you go hard to the body, whether it's a punch or a kick or a bat or whatever. You go hard to the body because the camera's got to pick up the impression, like the movement of the body, and you just can't fake it. I mean, if you fake it, it looks fake. But to the head, like if someone throws a punch, I can be 10 feet away from you. If the camera's behind you, I throw the punch, you snap your head. It looks like I knocked the crap out of you, but I didn't even touch you, right? Well, David, the bricks that were in the pillowcase, and they were rubber bricks. They weren't bricks, but they're rubber. They're heavy, and so David wanted to see, what if it would work to hit the head for real, and Aaron was like, "No, it doesn't work that way." I mean, he goes, "David was like, I'd like to see. I just like to see it. Can I see it?" And I want to see if I can do something with it, and. So Aaron and I went out, and he took the bag, and Aaron's incredible athlete. So my sparring partner in college boxing was a 285 pound super heavyweight named Abby Bray, and we were sparring partners, right? Joe Frazier picked him up after college. So this dude could throw a punch, right? I was a sparring partner because I was 100 pounds lighter, much faster, and so we really complemented each other. Well, when Aaron hit me, just clipped me across the top of the head, it was a freaking Abby Bray punch, man. It was like boom. I went, oh dang. And he goes, "That's it, dude. I'm not gonna hit you again. I'm bringing Doug Tate out." And when Doug had showed up, he's like, "Dude, I don't want to steal your thunder. I'm not going to take credit for playing your role. I'm just happy to be here." Standard speech. And so he's walking out, and I'm walking in and walking off. And he goes, "Oh man, I'm just I'm not I'm just I don't." And I was like, "No, bro, go ahead. You're gonna have fun." and Aaron hit him. His knees buckled. I mean, he was on his way out, man. Knocked the piss out of him, man. And they never used it. They couldn't use it because you can't. It just doesn't sell.
Wait, so was that not Kyle Richards really hitting with the brick thing, or was she swinging it and then they would switch to the stunt quarter actually doing the hit?
No. She was really doing it, but I also did a lot of the physical stuff with her stunt double. So with her double, but the only thing Doug doubled me on camera, I mean on film, in the film that ended up on screen, was jumping off the SUV. But some people had thought that he had also done some of the doubling in the fight with Kylie, but that wasn't the case. They brought him out there to get hit with the bricks, and so he earned his pay that day, man. I'll tell you what.
I'm a huge Kyle Richards fan. What was it like working with her?
She's a sweetheart. I mean, I mean, the one thing that was a little difficult with her was when we were fighting, she was like, "I'm afraid to hurt you." I'm like, "Honey, really? You're afraid to hurt me?" Like this itty bitty little tiny woman, And again, my sparring partner is the guy. I mean, gee, the things I've done in my life, and you're going to hurt me? No, I don't think so. But it took a while to get her up to. In fact, I got a little rough with her on purpose. Aaron and I talked about it. It's like, get a little rough with her, get a little pissed, and not in any disrespectful kind of way, but just to get her energy up, because she's so sweet. She's such a nice person, It's like, don't be nice. You're trying to kill me, man. Like, She's a very good actor, and yeah, she was sweet as could be.
You know, something we were always wondering about Lindsay's scene with you is because we were wondering if you remember if any of it got cut because, okay, she, you know, you have the confrontation, she takes her mask off, she goes running, and then she's hiding from you near the creek. But the next shot, we get everyone finding her, and she's like all wet and disheveled as if she had been in the creek. Did you guys shoot anything where she was in the creek or you followed her in the creek?
Well, yeah, yeah, we did. And it was her double actually that went into the creek. But when you sit down, Tim Alverson is an incredible editor, and I sat in the bay with him and David, looking at various cuts of scenes to decide which ones we like the best. So at that point, you got to trust that David and Tim really knew, for the tempo and flow of the film, what was going to work.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of stuff we shot that never made it to screen.
I'm dying to see her scene, because her scene wasn't on the DVD, right?
No, not that cut part, because or her being in the creek or anything like that.
I hope we get that footage someday.
Yeah.
It's the stunt double, so you may never, because I think they would put it up if it was her. I don't know. Maybe who knows? Who knows? But yeah. It was fun.
Of all the murders and kills, what did you think was the most brutal?
Well, so my three favorite kills are in 18, the window kill, because that's the way I would really kill somebody.
Just a knife through the throat quickly.
You're gonna have a soliloquy, and like before you get, no, man, you get in quietly, get your job done, and leave, right? And and I think one of the most brutal and my favorite kill in kills is the Cameron kill. I think it's just like, I think it's just so. It's so powerful, just to beat him near death and then just walk down and just snap his freaking neck. You know what I mean?
He gets fucked up because it's like it's almost like you do enough that he probably would have died anyway. And then you're like, hey, I'm just going to finish this off with a neck snap.
I think a lot of women were really happy about that. That trick to learn how to treat women is all I got to say. You know what I mean?
True that.
Yeah. No, totally. So moving on to Halloween Ends. Now, this is also a very different film than the first two, but I think the biggest difference is that Michael Myers is kind of sidelined for a bunch of the film so they can explore more of Corey Cunningham and his descent into evil. I was just wondering, what were your thoughts when you first read the script for Ends and saw that things were going in this like different sort of direction?
My first thoughts were, I work half as much and I make a hell of a lot more money. I like this formula.
I love Halloween Ends.
Why? Tell me why you liked it.
Well, I was telling Matt, Season of the Witch, when that came out, people were like, "Oh, where's Michael? Where's Michael?" And I was like, "Okay, well, we have Michael, and also it's just something different." And I know people don't like different sometimes, so I think it may. I also think Corey Cunningham and that whole aspect is interesting. So I think, just exploring something different, because you still have all the elements. You still have Laurie, you still have Michael, but it's different.
Yeah, well, to your point, every week, at least once a week, David would wear a Season of the Witch t-shirt on set. He was doing that. He was very intentional. He also knows that for the haters, for the people who don't like Halloween, Ends, let's talk to them again in 10 years. Let's talk to them again in 20 years, because the Season of the Witch has a huge cult following now, right? Mm-hmm. There were a lot of naysayers back then, but even people who didn't like it then like it now. So David knew exactly what he was doing. I think, and I think, Rowan Campbell did just an insanely beautiful job. Kid is, he's an incredible actor. He's an incredible human being. And we knew that was going to happen. So I met him at the after party at the premiere of Halloween Kills. David had called me a couple weeks ago and said, "Hey, so, you're going to have a protege, and I want you to mentor him. I want you to become friends." And we did. And so I got to know Rowan before we went to work. And then prior to shooting, Rowan and I'd get together with David, and we would just sit and just hash out stuff. And now Rowan is a very good friend. So it's really interesting how David forges these friendships between the people that he works with, and these friendships are lasting. I have never walked away from a movie or a TV show with so many really good friends, like friends that are still, I mean, we check in on each other and we make it a point to see each other if we're in some part of the country or the world. And, I mean, shoot, Nick Castle and his wife and Sarah and I have traveled together. Like we just go on vacations together,
I love that.
Yeah.
The OG
It's
and
beautiful, by the
the
way.
OG and the recent Michael Myers hanging out together,
But
you know?
it's the alpha and the omega, man,
Yeah. No, no, no. I love that. And I think look, the thing is my perspective on ends. I feel like I can see both sides because I definitely see the people who love it for being different and get the season of the witch vibe and like a different sort of movie in that. I also see, I think, some of the fans that were disappointed that we didn't have more Laurie and Michael since it was the final franchise, even though we did get that epic battle. So I kind of can see both sides of the debate on ends, but I wanted to talk to you obviously about that final battle between Michael and Laurie because it's so epic. And I've heard you mention that it was quite emotional for both you and Jamie to plot out and film the scene. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Like when did the emotions kick in for the two of you?
It was the first day that because that thing took about a week to shoot. So the first day we get on that set, and she had rehearsed with her stunt double and the stunt people. And I had rehearsed, and done rehearsing. But the first day we were actually going to shoot, um, we showed up there, and she was standing. I was standing by the table. She was standing over by the sink, and I said, "Jamie, let's talk." And she goes, "Okay, let's go beat by beat." And as we started talking through the scene, we were both getting so visibly emotional. I literally had tears, just like, running down my cheeks because what we were experiencing as we're going through the beats was all the emotions that these two characters have. And it's a love story, man. It's a freaking love story, a very twisted one, but it's a love story. And so, the power of that and what we could do to support each other in all those emotions that we were going to experience because that's the first time as that character I experienced the entire phalanx of emotions that a human being feels. So humanity was created in that character in the shape during that scene. There was love, there was hate, there was wanting to die, wanting to kill. There were all these conflicting emotions happening between Jamie and I. And what an amazing scene partner. I mean, she just gives so much. And that's why she said, it's the most powerful thing she's ever done. And for her to say that is, it's certainly the most powerful thing I've ever done as an actor. And there were so many, I mean, the emotion in that house, it was a, facade in the studio. The emotion in that house when we were shooting those scenes is just, you could cut it with a knife, man. It was just, and it was exhausting, And Jamie and I both were literally, not figuratively, literally bruised from our shoulders to our ankles. And she threw down. She had a great stunt double, but that's Jamie's head going through the glass. That's Jamie, it's all Jamie and it's all me, and shooting on that for both of us was incredibly uncomfortable because you see it on screen and it looks okay. It looks like it looks. It looks natural. It looks like, but that's not the way it is. Like we're in very uncomfortable positions for very long periods of time, and it's painful. So
I love though hearing how emotional it was because it's like in a way, and I don't want to speak for all Halloween fans, but it was a very emotional experience for Halloween fans too because it's this epic final battle, 44 years in the making. I mean, the amount of history between these two characters, Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, through all of these decades, the amount, like the effect that Michael and everything that's happened to her has had on Laurie's life, and it's like all coming together in this one scene. She's wearing the same colors as she did in the original. It's like it was such an incredible battle. Like that was such a big moment for the franchise and everything that I'm so glad to hear how much it meant to both of you because it meant that to the fans.
Yeah. The bond I think that Jamie and I experienced from that. It's just so special, and in the conversations we've had since then, even when it's not, and generally at this point, it's not about Halloween. It's so there's a special thing happens as an actor when you have that kind of connection with another human being. You really have to bare your soul. You can't, there's no pretending in there. And when you connect with another human being, especially a quality human being like Jamie, that lingers, man. I still carry that with me.
I love that. I heard you mention on another podcast that the ending of Halloween Ends, where Laurie throws you into that big industrial shredder, was not the initial way that it ended. Can you tell us what happened in the original ending? Are you allowed to tell that?
See if I can remember. I don't know if I can remember.
I think it was something to do with like a crematorium or something.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. I got so much. I've got a TV show and 3 movies on my.
Oh, totally.
Much shit floating through my brain. Yeah. So they put me in a crematorium, and they actually did. And in fact, I have an urn with the ashes from the from the body that
Michael Myers' ashes.
I have them, I have a little urn for them. And yeah, so that was I agree with David as well. They do the test marketing and the test audiences they have tend to be really accurate. Like they I don't know the science of it, but somehow they get people in these test screenings and they really put their fingers on the pulse of what the public is going to respond to. So although I think that ending, and it was very kind of mystical and spiritual, the ending, the original ending, with a factory cranking out masks, and but the masks is imbued with the shape's energy, and so so basically the energy of that's going to affect the population of the planet, and
that's very Season of the Witch. Wow.
Yeah, and that's why they did that, but when they tested it, it just didn't work. So I think. So, the story about Sarah, my partner, was up in Nashville when we were shooting that, and so I just had I took my phone and I just shot the monitor when they were doing when they're doing that scene, and they crank everything up, and so I sent it to her, and she knew not to, she was at a restaurant with some friends, and so she knew not to look at it in the restaurant. She didn't want anybody to be able to see it, so she walked out to the street and kind of turned her back to everybody, and then she's watching it, and it looks just like me. The body falls down, the blood flies, and she screamed out loud. She screamed because she thought it was me. She thought that I was telling her I was injured, and because I didn't say anything, I just sent her the clip.
Is the clip in the shredder?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I sent her a shot from the monitor of me going in the shredder, and she thought it was me, and then she realized quickly, of course, that it was just a
I love that she thought that you I gotta push send.
Hey, I got smashed, but here you go. No, it's a. I mean, to me, it's like having watched a million horror movies, and you always want them to like really finish off the villain. I actually really love that they did this, because it's like any other way of just killing Michael, you would have been like, oh, he can come back, but not if you're gonna put him in a fucking shredder. Like he will not come back, because your body just snaps into blood and guts like no other.
There's always cloning though.
Yeah. Well, so that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, as we're moving toward the end of this interview, I know David Gordon Green's version of Halloween is over, but ultimately Michael Myers is going to come back in some shape or form at some point. In your opinion, what do you think they should do next with the Halloween series?
Well, I think they're going to do something television-wise, streaming-wise, but I don't think I think that I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if a Michael Myers, a shape is going to be involved in that. I don't know if it's going to be more of a Season of the Witch thing. I would say, to my mind, the Halloween franchise is something you need to see in the theaters. I mean, for people who can't, awesome, stream it. But really, man, again, we go back to community. Like when you see a Halloween film in the theater with Halloween fans, the collective energy of that just triples whatever you're going to experience, whatever you see on screen. So I think, first of all, it needs that, when they do something with the shape, that it should be a feature film. And I think they should wait 7 or 8 years. You know what I mean? Like they did after Rob Zombie's films. I think they need to wait a while, let it kind of die down, get a hold of another, another really gifted director and writer, and it'll be some other guy playing the shape, and 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 I'm sure somebody will come up with something really creative. I mean, and I hope they do because, well, I know they will because, first of all, I think we gross close to $900 million. Yeah, I don't think they're going to put that away.
And if the opportunity arose, would you want to do it again?
Like, would you be up for playing Michael
Thinking
Myers
about
again?
it?
Um, Under the right circumstances. I mean, the script, the director, huge. First and foremost, huge. Secondly, it's business. Are they willing to pay me what I'm worth? And that's so that depends on who the company that makes. Some companies are very generous, some not so much. And so yeah, I mean, I would be open to it. It was the role of a lifetime.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to get into I wouldn't want to do it right away if I were offered again, because then I might just be typecast as that character. And I wouldn't want that. And the things I have going now are outside of, though I do have something I think I can't tell you about now, but I do have something brewing television wise that when it pops, I will let you guys know. I think the horror fans are gonna be really excited about it. I think it's special. So when that happens, I'll let you guys know, and maybe we can do a little something on that. But the other films I have going, two of them are kind of horror thriller, and one is a coming of age story of a high school soccer player. So I need to do other things other than just horror. I love it. I want to play other characters in other horror films. You know, I mean, look at not to compare myself to the greats, the Bela Lugosi's or I can't see myself playing the Mummy and Frankenstein, and that's a whole nother ball of wax. But having the opportunity to play these characters, they're so deep and rich, and the audiences connect with them on such a visceral level. And to have the honor of being able to play characters like that and work with people that I really respect, of course I'd do it, man.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny you took the next question right out of our mouths, because we wanted to ask you about the projects you're working on today and anything you can tell us. And it sounds like you can't tell us much, but you alluded there's some horror along with the movie you said about a soccer player. Is there anything can you tell us the genre in horror? Is it slasher, supernatural? Anything? I'm going to poke you for details.
So the two features that are horror related will be more supernatural, definitely the physicality, and definitely beings who have been altered in a monsterish way. So so we have and definitely the action and hopefully the suspense that Halloween created. Where I'm working with some very I didn't write either one of these. I wrote the soccer script. I mean, writing. I don't know if you guys write, but writing a screenplay is not an easy task, man.
Oh gosh, I can't even make a grocery list.
I work for my full-time job. I work for an ad agency as a writer, so it's a very different type of writing because it's sales, copywriting. But yes, screenwriting I know is very difficult.
It's a bloodletting. And though I don't have the bandwidth, and so I'm working with some very, very gifted writers. We're really happy with what we have. So I think those, I also wanted to give this fans the people who've been gracious enough to be kind enough to me to stop and see me and get an autograph, or have DM'd me or whatever. The fans that I've connected with, I want to give them something that that they'll love and appreciate, but I don't want to give them the same thing. You know what I mean? So hopefully we can broaden the gifts we give to each other, and the soccer film I'm really stoked about. It's special, man, and I've got a foundation tied to the soccer film. So we will be putting in soccer pitches in rural and urban areas that are depressed and underserved. So if our thinking is if you can get 22 kids off the street onto a soccer pitch and run them to death, they're not going to be out, causing trouble. They're not going to be out doing drugs. They're not going to be out, gangbanging. And so it's an opportunity to give something back to the world. And I got to tell you, man, because of playing The Shape, I have been able to do so much charity work. especially around hunger and children's stuff, children's hospitals. And I mean, I've been able to do so much of it because I can show up to a place and the fans will show up and we can load truckload, make just tractor trailers filled with food for people who need food. And, man, I'm so grateful for that because any other character I've played before would never have given me that platform to be able to be of some use on this planet. You know what I mean?
That's so
It's
nice
so
to
interesting because it's like a character that's so evil, but then doing something so good.
But that's what I think is so amazing about what you just told us is that like you've like channeled this experience into something really good to give back to people. And that's really sweet because not every actor would do that, So it really means a lot to hear that you have turned this experience, which was so like incredible for the fans to watch, into something where you've used it to help give back to the community.
Well, honestly, I think it's a reflection of the horror community. I think having met tens of thousands, maybe even 100,000 horror fans in these 6 years, horror fans, hands down, are the nicest people you're ever going to meet. And
Amen.
And I have a theory about this. Okay, so these fans are like EMTs, ER docs, cops, firefighters, military guys in the thick of battle will go back and watch these movies to decompress, right? EMTs will decompress watching these movies, cops after like really traumatic events. So after knowing so many people, I'm realizing that horror fans, the fans of horror, work out they work out the pathologies in their subconscious by watching these films. And I put it together when a buddy of mine who's an astrologer, an incredible astrologer, told me that, everybody knows this, Nancy Reagan had an astrologer. And Nancy Reagan's astrologer told Ronnie that he was going to be assassinated. And he goes, well, how do I avoid it? And she said, watch assassination films. So literally every single night, Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan, when they could, would watch an assassination film. They immersed themselves in. So this is what horror fans are doing. They're immersing themselves in the terror, right? And they're working their shit out. I'm going to guarantee you, man, a horror fan is not the asshole who's going to pull you over in traffic and try to kill you, right? That's not going to be a horror fan. That might be a rom-com fan. That might be you know what I mean? But it ain't going to be a horror fan. And I spend enough time with people, and part of my job as an actor is to be able to really read into people. Like it's an energy thing, right? You know that, you walk in a room, you feel the room, you meet a new potential lover, you meet a new potential friend, you meet a new business, acquaintance. You feel into that right away, man. You know, right? And so, and I meet so many of these people and especially when they're all, got tatted and, piercings all over their faces and they're, bulging with muscles, or they're 400 pounds or whatever. And they look frightening as, nah, dude, nicest people on the planet.
Yeah. And
true. Like we go to conventions sometimes and everyone's so nice.
And I can tell you what the horror fan is going to be able to do if they're in a situation where their life is at stake. They're going to know how to fight back. They're going to know how to get away. They're going to know how to support and help their friends. They're going to be the ones that are going to get out of it. Okay. They're not going to be starting the situation, but they're going to know how to like facilitate it.
At least they get that knife flip going, right? I
mean, so we have one final question for you, and we asked this to all of our guests. It puts you on the spot a little bit, but we just asked this to all of our guests at the very end of the interview. What is just one thing you can tell us about your experience working on any of the 3 Halloween films that you've never told any other interviewer, publication, convention, Q&A, or podcaster? Just one thing about anything related to your experience on the 3 films that you've never told in any other interview or Q&A.
Damn, man, that's hard.
Yep.
Dude.
And it can be
actually, you kind of did with the Kyle Richards stuff. I didn't know. I never knew that there was stuff filmed in the pond. And I found that fascinating.
And it can be a little thing or it can be the biggest thing. It can be, one day when I was between takes, Jamie Lee brought me over some chicken parm. I don't know. Or
I said, I hate chicken parm.
And I said, Jamie, get that chicken parm out of my bed. No.
Okay. I mean, I'll tell you this, and I haven't told anybody this. I'm like in the movie industry, the saying goes, if you're a half hour early, you're a half hour late. Like the deal with the movie is you've got to be on time. Hundreds of thousands of dollars are being spent from the moment we start our day, right? I've only been late. Up until Halloween ends, I've only been late one time in my entire career. And I take it really seriously. And I'm generally early for everything when I can be. And and Halloween Ends, it was during COVID, and it was just and I was just exhausted, and I slept through my alarm. And Sarah had gone to the gym, and so she came back and she goes, James, you're supposed to be at work 2 hours ago, and and dude, I was mortified. I was so mortified because that's my integrity, man, and I'm letting everybody on that set down, and it's just I was just so mortified. And I know David was pissed before I got there, but I went right to David. I was like, bro, I'm so sorry. And we had a little talk, and he was gracious as fuck, you know what I mean? But really, I'm going to talk about that because it speaks to my integrity. Like for me to drop the ball like that, and it may not seem like a big deal, I'm being late for work. Nah, man, you don't let your people down like that. And so I felt really, really bad about that.
But no, it's so tough.
Thank you for reminding me, assholes.
You should feel bad. No, what I was thinking was we've heard about people who like are chronically late to sets and we're just like, oh, that's so rude and stuff. So for you to feel so bad over one mistake, it does speak to your integrity,
I don't know. I don't, I'd have to really pour over my mind to think of somebody I've ever worked with who was late.
Oh.
Little things you learn, and I learned that from when I was doing the Conan show, right? And we had a show captain and we had an understudy. And I had a little Fiat convertible and I was driving to work and it broke down. And so, didn't have cell phones then. I walked over to a gas station. I was going to have to push the car, but I walked over to a gas station, got on the cell phone, called the show captain, said, hey, man, call my understudy. My car just broke down. And he goes, fuck you. I went, what? He goes, fuck you. You know how lucky you are to have this job? You know how lucky you are? Do you know how many thousands of men would love to be in your position right now? You fucking walk here if you have to. You take a cab. I don't give a shit what you do. You come to work. And I thought about it, and he was right. There are thousands of guys that would have taken my role on that show. And so I pushed the car to the gas station, and I freaking called a cab, and I got to work. And that's what set me up. And there are little things like I was working on Babylon 5, and I was always, I thought, being courteous. After my wardrobe, I'd take my wardrobe off, I'd fold it and put it on the couch. And this great old stuntman walks by, and then he walks backward. He goes, hey, Jimmy, wardrobe's here before you get here. They leave after you leave. Hang your shit up, man. And I was like, you're right. You're right. So you'll notice that all of us, if you're on a set, we all hang our wardrobe up after we're done. That's a beauty of working on a film. The courtesy that you experience working on a film with a great cast and a great crew, man, I wish the world could operate that way,
So true, yes.
It'd be just such a better place, man.
Just having the mutual respect for everyone's job in any sort of production or any sort of work environment or anything. Just people respecting every single role, and not feeling like, oh, I'm better than you or you're not as good or that kind of thing. So totally.
Like sorry about that. In the for instance, on a set, David Gordon Green would go to the assistant director and say, invite Shapa up to the set. I get a knock on my dressing room, and it's like I open the door, David's inviting you to the set, and then you show up to the set and someone's going to say, welcome to the set or welcome back. Every morning, whether it's 6 a.m. or 6 p.m., it's always, everybody says, good morning, whether it's even 6 p.m., good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's the terminology everybody uses, the language is all about courtesy and respect. And it just makes life so much easier, It's not fake either because, people like David, shit, every director I've ever worked with, if there's an asshole on the set, they're not there the next day, man.
That's so true. It like the person at the top sets the tone for everyone else.
Yeah, man. And that's why David Gordon Green, hands down. I mean, yeah, Ron Howard was amazing. I've definitely worked with some wonderful directors, but dude, David, he's just head and shoulders above anybody else. He's just such an incredible guy, and we all are living like proof of the benefit of the movie would not be what it was if we had an asshole for a director.
No, totally. Well, look, James, it's been such an honor, truly, being able to talk with you about all of these films, about the Halloween franchise, just getting to know you and your career. Like, you can tell you're just such a genuine person. And so we just really want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Oh, thank you. No, this is fun, and I'll look forward to. So, let me know when you guys are going to release it. Whatever, I'll blast it out so people can, so the fans can look at it.
Awesome. No, we really appreciate that. We will definitely be in touch, and thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Okay.
You guys as well. Much love.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Happy Horror Time.
If you'd like to support the podcast, please sign up to be a patron at www.patreon.com/happyhorrortime. As a patron, you get access to all our bonus content, which now includes 2 new bonus episodes every month, a monthly after show mini episode, access to our Discord community so you can chat with us directly, and the chance to review a film with us in one of our bonus episodes.
Patrons also get all our regular episodes ad-free and a day early, our monthly newsletter, the chance to vote in polls, and autographed Happy Horror Time stickers.
I'm Matt Emmert.
And I'm Tim Murdoch.
And we hope you have a happy horror time.